Think Florida's housing market is unstoppable. Think again. Behind the postcard-perfect beaches and pastel condos, the Sunshine State is quietly sliding toward one of its biggest housing shakeups in decades. For years, Florida was the ultimate pandemic winner. Remote workers flooded in, investors snatched up rentals, and snowbirds turned part-time vacations into permanent moves. But in 2025, that wave has crashed. The signs are everywhere: homes staying on the market, longer sellers, cutting prices, and buyers walking away mid-deal. The numbers don't lie. Inventory across Florida has jumped more than 70% since late 2023. In some metros, listings have doubled. Insurance premiums, once a footnote in the home buying process, have now become deal breakers, averaging between $6,000 and $10,000 annually. That's a 50% increase since 2022. And with mortgage rates hovering near 7%, even well-qualified buyers are being priced out overnight. This isn't just a cooling phase. It's a correction, maybe even a reckoning. And while national headlines still call Florida America's hottest real estate market, locals are seeing a very different story play out. Stay with us. By the end of this countdown, you'll know exactly which 10 Florida cities are most at risk of a housing market crash in 2025. Some of these places might surprise you. Others, you've probably seen on every real estate influencer's best places to invest list. But after this breakdown, your view of Florida real estate will never be the same. Number 10, Fort Lauderdale. Paradise? Not anymore. Fort Lauderdale, once the glamorous playground of South Florida, is now facing the kind of housing correction locals haven't seen in over a decade. For years, this city was the crown jewel for investors, retirees, and remote workers looking to live where every day felt like vacation. But by 2025, the market tells a very different story. Inventory has surged by more than 80% year over year, flooding the city, with listings that no one's in a rush to buy. Homes that once fetched $650,000 in 2023 are now sitting unsold at $580,000, and even then offers are scarce. Properties that used to fly off the market in a weekend now linger for months. It's not just about demand cooling, it's about costs spiraling. Fort Lauderdale's insurance crisis is front and center. The average homeowner now pays over $7,000 a year, a 50% jump since just 2022. Add in rising HOA fees, often above $500 per month, and owning a home here is becoming a financial burden. Investor activity has fallen off a cliff. Roughly 30% of investor-owned condos are now listed below their original purchase price. Even Airbnb hosts are feeling the sting, with occupancy rates down 12% year over year. Many are trying to exit before values drop further. On the surface, Fort Lauderdale still looks like paradise: turquoise water yachts and sunlit streets. But beneath the shine, affordability is collapsing and confidence is eroding. Number 9, Cape Coral. They once called it the Venice of America, a dream city built on sunshine canals and endless growth. But in 2025, Cape Coral's real estate fantasy is sailing into stormy waters. Just 2 years ago, this Southwest Florida hotspot was one of the fastest-growing housing markets in the country. Developers couldn't pour foundations fast enough. Between 2021 and 2023, the number of active listings exploded from around 1,800 to nearly 4,000 homes. At the time, demand seemed unstoppable. But now the market is oversupplied and underbought. Home prices have slipped 5 to 7% year over year. Houses that used to attract bidding wars now sit for 70-plus days on the market. Why? Overbuilding. Builders race to cash in on pandemic migration, flooding the market with inventory that simply doesn't have buyers anymore. And the costs of ownership here are becoming brutal. Flood insurance premiums are now running between $8,000 and $12,000 per year, if you can even find coverage. Cape Coral's infamous utility expansion fees add insult to injury, with some homeowners paying over $30,000 just to connect to city water and sewer. Combine that with mortgage rates near 7%, and even longtime locals are being priced out. Cape Coral's economy, heavily tied to construction and tourism, isn't diversified enough to support these inflated home values. As projects stall and demand weakens, the ripple effect is visible everywhere. Half-finished subdivisions, price cuts on every block, and open houses with no traffic. So yes, Cape Coral still looks like paradise from the sky, but behind the palm trees, the market is showing its first real cracks in years. Number 8. Ocala. Welcome to Ocala, Florida's horse capital of the world. Once a quiet inland gem famous for rolling pastures and equestrian estates, Ocala was the kind of place families and retirees flocked to for peace, affordability, and charm. But in 2025, that charm is fading fast. Just 2 years ago, Ocala was the darling of post-pandemic migration. Builders rushed in, developers bought up land, and prices skyrocketed. But today, the market has turned. Active listings have surged from roughly 800 to nearly 3,000, a staggering 275% jump. That's not growth. That's oversaturation. Homes that sold for $310,000 in 2023 now linger on the market at $275,000 and still can't find buyers. The problem? Too much supply, not enough demand. Developers overbuilt, assuming the migration boom would never end. But as insurance costs climbed and mortgage rates stayed high, that dream unraveled. Entire neighborhoods, especially around Silver Spring shores, now feel half-empty ghost suburbs born out of pandemic optimism. Wages in Ocala haven't kept pace with housing inflation either. Between 2020 and 2023, home values shot up more than 55% while local incomes barely moved. The economy rooted in agriculture, manufacturing, and warehousing is feeling the slowdown. With job growth stalling, there simply aren't enough new residents with the income to sustain home prices, and insurance premiums? They're soaring statewide, pushing even affordable homes out of reach. Ocala still offers beauty tree-lined trails, horse country landscapes, and a slower pace of life. But affordability, the very thing that drew buyers here, has quietly vanished. Number 7. Tampa. For years, Tampa was Florida's golden child, a booming metro where tech startups, sports fans, and real estate investors all converged in one unstoppable growth story. But in 2025, that shine is fading fast. Between 2023 and 2025, Tampa's active listings exploded from fewer than 3,000 to more than 4,500 homes, an 80% surge. The overbuilding spree that fueled its rise is now feeding its correction. Condos, new subdivisions, and high-rise projects sprang up everywhere during the pandemic. But now demand has dried up. Mortgage rates hovering near 6.8% have pushed monthly payments from roughly $1,800 to more than $2,600, a 40% jump that's priced thousands of buyers out. Property taxes and insurance premiums are both up over 40% since 2023, turning once affordable homes into long-term liabilities. Zillow reports small monthly price declines, but local agents know it's deeper than that. Investors are panic selling some listing properties at 5 to 10% losses just to get out. The once red-hot short-term rental market is cooling too. Tourism has plateaued, and locals can't afford the new price floor. Homes that used to sell in under 20 days now sit for more than 40. Builders are offering incentives, rate buydowns, and closing credits, anything to move inventory. But buyers are cautious. Tampa is still vibrant, world-class beaches, professional sports, and a lifestyle that's hard to beat. But behind the sunshine, the market's momentum has cracked. Number 6. Jacksonville. Jacksonville, Florida's biggest city by land area, is now showing its biggest housing cracks in over a decade. Once a steady, family-friendly market insulated from the volatility of Miami or Tampa, Jacksonville's boom has finally hit the brakes. In 2025, active listings across the metro have surged from about 2,200 to nearly 4,000 homes. That's an increase of more than 70% in just 2 years. Prices haven't collapsed yet, but the pressure is unmistakable and rising fast. The city's problem is classic: overbuilding, overpricing, and overconfidence. Builders went all in on suburban sprawl areas like Orange Park, Middleburg, and Nocatee, expecting endless demand from out-of-state movers. But as mortgage rates neared 7%, that demand evaporated. Fitch Ratings estimates that Jacksonville homes remain about 26% overvalued, and the local economy isn't strong enough to hold that line. The logistics and shipping industries, key pillars of the region, have slowed significantly. Jacksport cargo volume is down 14%, tightening both paychecks and loan approvals. Meanwhile, flood insurance premiums are up more than 60% in some neighborhoods. Add to that a growing investor exodus. Roughly 1 in 5 homes in Jacksonville is investor-owned, and the market is oversaturated with price cuts. Jacksonville's diversity and location still make it appealing in the long term, but in 2025, it's a market out of balance. Too much supply, not enough real demand. From the St. Johns River to the expanding suburbs, the signs are clear. Jacksonville's real estate rush has turned into a crawl. Number 5, Sarasota. Sarasota, long hailed as Florida's coastal jewel, is now watching its luxury housing market lose its luster. Known for its white sand beaches, world-class culture, and upscale lifestyle, Sarasota was once a seller's paradise. But in 2025, the market looks very different. Inventory has more than doubled in just 2 years, climbing to over 3,700 active listings. Those once coveted waterfront homes that sold for $1.2 million in 2022 are now being relisted closer to $975,000, and even at that, they're sitting. The shift began quietly. As inflation and stock market turbulence hit retirees and out-of-state investors in 2024, high-end buyers started to hesitate. Then came rising interest rates near 7% and insurance premiums soaring to $8,000 or even $10,000 a year. Together, they've created the perfect storm for a luxury cooldown. Sarasota's median days on market have stretched to over 90. Realtors are throwing everything at the wall. Staging events, offering credits, even hosting catered open houses with wine tastings, but the offers just aren't coming. And while Sarasota's amenities remain world-class from the Ringling Museum to Siesta Key sunsets, affordability is vanishing. What was once an exclusive market fueled by wealth and demand has become a waiting game for sellers with deep pockets. Make no mistake, Sarasota isn't collapsing, it's recalibrating. But for a city that lived off momentum, this pause feels like a fall. Number 4, Port St. Lucie. Once celebrated as Florida's affordable coastal haven, Port St. Lucie is now struggling to live up to its own promise. In 2025, this once booming suburban escape is facing the full weight of a market that grew too fast and priced too high. For years, Port St. Lucie was the go-to alternative to Miami or Palm Beach, quiet, spacious, and relatively affordable. But that affordability has all but disappeared. According to Florida Atlantic University, home prices in the city are now 41% above their long-term fair market value. The median price hit $410,000 in 2022, while the average household income still hovers around $62,000. That gap alone is unsustainable. Inventory has climbed 35% year over year, and builders are starting to feel the pressure. Homes that listed at $430,000 last year are now being relisted at $360,000, with added incentives like appliance upgrades, closing cost credits, or rate buy-downs just to attract buyers. But the problems here go beyond price. Port St. Lucie is a city straining under its own growth. Schools are overcrowded, traffic congestion is worsening, and the local water and utility systems are struggling to keep up. What used to be a smooth, livable community is now feeling stretched to its limits. And then there's insurance. Waterfront homes now average $6,500 a year in premiums, a cost that's derailing mortgage approvals and pushing many would-be buyers out of the market entirely. Port St. Lucie still offers sun beaches and suburban comfort, but the housing dream here has hit a hard wall. Number 3, Fort Myers. During the pandemic, Fort Myers was a real estate gold rush. Prices soared, investors swarmed, and new residents poured in faster than builders could keep up. But by 2025, that explosive growth has turned into one of Florida's most visible housing resets. Between 2022 and 2024, home values in Fort Myers surged more than 65%, with median prices peaking around $430,000. Today, that same market is retreating. Prices are down 6% year over year, and inventory has ballooned from roughly 3,200 listings to over 5,000. The shift isn't subtle. Homes are sitting longer, sellers are slashing prices, and contracts are falling through before closing. Real estate agents say it's the slowest demand they've seen since before the last housing crash. One of the biggest culprits is insurance. After Hurricane Ian, premiums skyrocketed across Lee County, now averaging between $9,000 and $11,000 per year, even for homes outside official flood zones. That has forced many buyers to walk away mid-deal. Rental owners aren't escaping the squeeze either. Tourism is slowing, Airbnb revenue is dropping, and short-term investors are unloading properties at discounts just to cut their losses. Local incomes haven't kept up with housing costs either. With median earnings below $60,000, most residents are priced out of the market they built. The imbalance between wages and values has reached a breaking point. Fort Myers is still beautiful, palm-lined boulevards, Gulf sunsets, and tropical charm remain intact. But behind the postcard image, the numbers don't add up anymore. Number 2, St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg, Florida's city of sunshine, art, and innovation is now facing a housing correction it didn't see coming. Once celebrated for its waterfront skyline and creative downtown energy, St. Pete has become a case study in how quickly confidence can evaporate. In 2025, active listings across the city have exploded to over 5,600, the highest level in nearly a decade. That surge has hit prices hard. Median home values, which peaked around $450,000, have now slipped to roughly $390,000. On the surface, that's a moderate drop, but dig deeper, and the market's stress points become clear. Flood insurance costs are crushing homeowners. Premiums have risen 60 to 70% since 2023, and some waterfront properties now face annual bills exceeding $10,000. Even high-income buyers are rethinking their dream homes when coverage costs rival mortgage payments. The rental side isn't faring much better. Airbnb owners who flooded the market during the pandemic are now dealing with oversaturation, lower occupancy, and slashed nightly rates. Many short-term rentals purchased at peak prices are now underwater financially, and in some cases, literally. With a median household income below $58,000, local residents can no longer afford what outsiders once called affordable luxury. Many buyers are shifting toward nearby towns like Largo or Clearwater, where prices and insurance are more manageable. St. Petersburg remains vibrant. Its murals, cafes, and bayfront views still make it one of Florida's most livable cities. But in 2025, its housing market is under real pressure, and the correction is far from over. Number 1, Lakeland. Lakeland, the city once marketed as Florida's next big opportunity, has become the epicenter of the state's housing correction in 2025. Perfectly positioned between two booming metros, Tampa and Orlando, Lakeland was supposed to be the affordable alternative. But today, that dream is cracking under the weight of reality. In just 2 years, inventory has jumped from roughly 3,000 homes to more than 4,800, a 60% increase. Prices that climbed to $350,000 in 2023 are now dropping 2 to 4% month over month. For many homeowners, that means negative equity after just one refinance cycle. The biggest problem? Overbuilding. During the boom years, developers bet big on South Lakeland and North Polk County, flooding the market with new subdivisions. But as mortgage rates held near 7%, the buyer pool evaporated. Out-of-state migration slowed to a trickle, and local incomes simply couldn't keep up. Investor retreat has made things worse. Roughly 31% of current listings are investor-owned, many of them short-term rentals or speculative flips, now being slashed in price to offload inventory. Panic selling is already visible in multiple neighborhoods, with price reductions becoming the new normal. Even though Lakeland isn't coastal, it hasn't escaped Florida's insurance crisis. Premiums have jumped more than 40% in 2 years, averaging $4,000 to $5,500 annually. For middle-class buyers, that's a deal breaker. Job growth largely tied to logistics and warehousing has stalled. With demand drying up from every direction, Lakeland stands as the clearest warning sign yet that no Florida city, no matter how safe it seemed, is immune to the housing correction. Lakeland had its moment in the spotlight, but in 2025, it's become the cautionary tale for what happens when a market grows faster than its foundation. From luxury condos in Sarasota to inland starter homes in Lakeland, the story is the same. Florida's housing boom has finally hit the brakes. The Florida housing market crash 2029. Housing market crash 2025 isn't about panic, it's about a long overdue correction. For years, easy money, low interest rates, and migration hype pushed prices to unsustainable highs. But in 2025, the fundamentals are back in control. Three forces are reshaping the Sunshine State's market right now. First, interest rates. Hovering near 7%, they've choked demand and cooled what was once a buying frenzy. Second, insurance costs. From Fort Lauderdale to Fort Myers, premiums have climbed 50 to 100% since 2022, turning ownership into a luxury. And third, inventory. Builders kept building, even as buyers pulled back, leaving thousands of homes sitting longer than at any point in the past decade. But here's the truth. This isn't a collapse, it's a rebalancing. The Florida real estate trends we're seeing now mark a shift from speculation to sustainability, from hype to hard numbers. For buyers, opportunity is returning. For sellers, timing is everything. And for investors, data, not emotion, will decide who wins the next cycle. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe because what's happening in Florida today could hit your city next. Don't walk blind into your next home purchase. Which city shocked you the most? Tell us in the comments and join the conversation because this story isn't over. The next chapter of America's housing market is already being written, and you'll want to be ready when it arrives. For buyers, opportunity is returning. For sellers, timing is everything. And for investors, data, not emotion, will decide who wins the next cycle. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe. Because what's happening in Florida today could hit your city next. Don't walk blind into your next home purchase. Which city shocked you the most? Tell us in the comments and join the conversation because this story isn't over. The next chapter of America's housing market is already being written, and you'll want to be ready when it arrives.